Morning everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we will be dealing with acute respiratory distress syndrome. So what is ARDS? What is acute respiratory distress syndrome? Any patient presenting with acute onset severe breathlessness with this hypoxemia with a diffuse lung infiltration of a recent onset. You have to think in terms of ARDS. So this is what is the definition for ARDS? It is given by the Berlin's criteria. The first point will be an acute onset. It means usually within less than 1 week from a known clinical insult or sudden onset worsening of respiratory symptoms. So this is the first part. Then the patient should have the PaO2 by FiO2 ratio. The PaO2 by FiO2 ratio should be less than 300 to 200. If this can be termed as mild, and the PaO2 by FiO2 ratio 200 to 100, this is the moderate, and the PaO2 by FiO2 less than 100, this is the severe. So this is the grading of ARDS. Also, you must have patient's NECT or imaging evidence of bilateral diffuse pulmonary infiltrations. This can be made out by chest X-ray or a CT thorax, anything of a choice, and you should have a normal pulmonary capillary wedge pressure. This means a normal left atrial pressure. This means there is no involvement of the left atrium. So this is the definition. An acute onset, PaO2 FiO2 less than 300 with a bilateral diffuse infiltration on a chest X-ray on with a normal pulmonary capillary wedge pressure on a 2D echo. So this is how we can define an ARDS. So how develops ARDS and how do they develop? First, we will be dealing with the direct causes. Direct causes, they are more dangerous than indirect causes, and they are more common for developing ARDS. First one will be pneumonia. Second one, they would have a direct inhalation injury, inhalation of any toxic fumes or paints. Second one. Third one will be the near drowning. The patient can drown and develop ARDS. The fourth one will be because of the patient can have some sort of lung injuries, indirect lung injuries can be secondary to sepsis. This is the very common. Sepsis and pneumonia, these are the very common causes for ARDS. Sepsis, then trauma in the form of multiple fractures. Multiple fracture can be a reason. A patient can have chest trauma, having flailed ribs. The patient can have head injury. The patient can have burns. Or this can be secondary to pancreatitis or a massive blood transfusion, or the patient can have secondary to drug induced. So the direct and the indirect causes. Direct causes also includes aspiration of gastric contents. So these are the causes of ARDS. This can be either a direct lung injury or an indirect lung injury. Now, coming to the pathophysiology, what happens in ARDS, or who are high risk of developing ARDS? Patients who have got some chronic alcoholism or the decompensated liver disease, or patient with cirrhosis, they can easily develop ARDS. Secondly, any patient with advanced age or with immunosuppression or post lung transplantation or any under steroids, they can develop ARDS. This is the high risk for ARDS. So what basically happens in ARDS? As we all know, think of this is the alveolar epithelium, and this is the endothelial cells. You have got the endothelial cells here. and you have got the alveolar epithelial cells here. So what happens here is that there will be some sort of endothelial or epithelial injury. We saw the direct and indirect cause. Both of them will cause the disruption of the endothelial layer. Endothelium gaps will be disrupted and the endothelial cells will go for swelling. Because of the disruption of the endothelial fluid, a protein-rich fluid will enter from the endothelium, from the blood vessel. This is the blood vessel. The protein-rich fluid will enter from the blood vessel into the interstitial space. This protein-rich fluid, once the interstitial space gets filled up, once the fluid amount becomes more than what that can be drained from the interstitial lymphatics, it then enters into the alveolus. So there will be endothelial injury. Endothelium will be injured. Epithelium will be injured. Accumulation of protein-rich fluid within the alveoli. So endothelium is injured, protein-rich fluid enters from the alveoli into the alveoli. There will be increased the neutrophils, eosinophils, all the inflammatory cells will enter into the lung. They will produce cytokines and other inflammatory mediators. This will further cause lung damage. And finally, there will be formation of hyaline membrane. What is this hyaline membrane? Hyaline membrane is a combination of alveolar epithelial cells, the surfactants and the proteins and the cellular debris. Together they form the hyaline membrane. So this is what happens in ARDS. Okay, there are three phases of ARDS. First one is the exudative phase. That is what the first 7 days is the exudative phase. During this phase, as I said earlier, there will be endothelial injury and capillary epithelial injury, accumulation of fluid within the alveolar spaces. And this will be, there will be a lot of neutrophilic infiltration and production of a lot of cytokines, and cytokines will damage the lung. And also the patients can also have the pulmonary vasoconstriction. Because of the alveolar endothelial injury, there will be pulmonary vasoconstriction. So the patients will suffer from two problems. One, there will be a wet lung and there will be reduced compilance, and there will be decrease in the blood flow, and there will be decrease in the gaseous diffusion. The patient can have all the three problems. So the patient will present with breathlessness, tachypnea, use of auxiliary muscle of respiration. The patient will go for respiratory muscle fatigue, and quickly the patient will go for respiratory failure. These are the findings you can see in an acute phase. Chest X-ray. Chest X-ray can show bilateral multiple opacities. Same thing will be seen in CT scan. CT scan will show bilateral diffuse opacities that are variable heterogeneously. ARDS predominantly involves the dependent area more, so it won't be a uniform involvement. There will be patchy infiltration. Some area will be consolidated, some areas will be normal. So it will be variable. So it has to be closely differentiated from other causes like cardiogenic pulmonary edema, neurogenic pulmonary edema, patients with acute interstitial pneumonia, patients with eosinophilic pneumonia. These conditions can also have an acute presentation. So this is the first phase. Then second one will be the proliferative phase. So phase 1 is the exudation, phase 2 is the proliferation. This is the first 7 days, this is the 7 to 21 days. So what happens to the proliferative phase? First, this will be usually the patient will be extubated by this period if the patient survives. There will be replacement of neutrophils by the lymphocytes. Secondly, the type 2 alveolar epithelial cells will get transformed into type 1 alveolar epithelial cells and produce surfactant. Thirdly, the patients can have the fibrosis will start to appear during this period. This is the transition period between an exudative phase and the fibrotic phase. The third phase will be the fibrotic phase. Usually, most of the patient will recover during the fibrotic. Most of the patient will not go into the fibrotic phase. Usually, will recover. But some patient, when they enter into the fibrotic phase, they can have three problems. First, there will be capillary endothelial fibrosis. The intimal fibrosis will result in pulmonary hypertension, will decrease the pulmonary blood flow. That is the first problem. Second one, there will be interstitial fibrosis. Because of the interstitial fibrosis, there are also a patient present with ILD-like features. Thirdly, there will be the alveolar duct, the alveoli can be disturbed, and the alveoli will go for an enlargement. They form massive emphysematous changes or Buller-like changes. So, a Buller-like change. So, Buller-like change that can increase the risk of spontaneous pneumothorax. Then the patient can have fibrosis, an ILD-like picture. This can also emphysema-like picture, and the patients can also have a pulmonary hypertension like picture because of the endothelial obliterator. So, all these are the phases of ARDS. So, coming to the management of ARDS. First, we will see the general pictures. Any patient with ARDS, they will be admitted in intensive care unit. So, ICU management is what determines the outcome of an ARDS patient. First, the patient we should identify the cause of this ARDS, and we must treat that particular cause. If it is a pneumonia or a sepsis, that must be treated first. So that is the first point. Secondly, we will go for prophylaxis like low molecular heparin for DVT prophylaxis. The patient go for pantoprazole injection for GI bleeding prophylaxis, and patient should be given other high-risk features should be identified. If the patient is having chronic alcoholism and decompensated liver disease or cirrhosis, or the patient is having increased age, these are the patient who are having high chance of death. So these patients should be triaged early. And thirdly, the patient should be given respiratory support. Respiratory support in the form of a mechanical intubation and mechanical ventilation that should be done. So what are the unique findings with mechanical ventilation? You should maintain a low tidal volume of 6 ml per kg per expected body weight. Why this is low tidal volume? We increase the tidal volume, there will be more distension of the alveoli and will go for disruption. As I said earlier, there will be heterogeneous involvement of the lung. Because of the heterogeneous involvement, the damaged alveoli will distend lesser than the normal alveoli. So if you increase the tidal volume for those damaged alveoli, the normal alveoli will go for polytrauma. So that should be avoided. Secondly, for maintaining oxygenation, you can increase the respiratory rate. So maximum of 35 breaths per minute can increase, and the plateau pressure should be maintained less than 30 centimeter of water, 30 millimeters of water. This should be maintained. So other thing you can do is increase the positive end expiratory pressure. By increasing the positive end expiratory pressure, you can open up lot of alveoli which are usually collapsed at the end of expiration. By increasing the PEEP usually to 5 to 8 centimeters, maximum of 10, the PEEP can be increased, and you can decrease the FiO2. The maximum FiO2 should be less than 0.6 because over oxygen can also damage. So we can raise the PEEP so that we can reduce the FiO2 to maintain an SpO2 of 95%. So these are the things we can do for ventilatory management. You also have to reduce the left atrial pressure. Decrease the left atrial pressure, because when the left atrial pressure increases, there will be more exudation of fluid into the alveoli. It will worsen the ARDS. So you should reduce the left atrial pressure by giving fluid restriction and diuretics. But you should also maintain a MAP of more than 65 millimeters of mercury to ensure vital organ perfusion. That is very important. Then you also go for early sedation plus neuromuscular blockade. Go for vecuronium and the midas, so that early you should maintain the patient under strict paralysis for first 48 hours, so that he does not go for further respiratory muscle fatigue. So these are the basic findings. The other finding is that there are no role for steroids. Steroids are usually not effective in patients with ARDS. The other types of ventilation you can do are the prone position ventilation. This will improve the patient's oxygenation. The other ventilations you can do are the inverse frequency ventilation, or you can use the high frequency oscillatory ventilation, or you can try the extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. But overall, the prognosis is very bad for ARDS. Mild for the 40% mortality rate for a moderate, and 35 for mild, and 45% for a severe disease. So it's an ICU based condition. You have to treat all the nosocomial infection should be early picked up, and they should be treated effectively. Overall, ARDS carries a very poor prognosis. So early picking up and early management, effective ventilatory management can help the patient survive. So if they survive the acute period, overall prognosis can be better, but it is usually the patient die within the acute period itself. Thank you. I hope this was very useful. If you find this video to be useful, I would like you to subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video, comment your views on the video. This will help to grow my channel. Thank you.